The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Derrick Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
That is Sao Paulo, Brazil, where the UFC will touch down for a UFC Fight Night headlined with a heavyweight main event between Jailton Almeida and Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis taking the fight on short notice. It was supposed to be Curtis Blaydes down there in Brazil. Instead, it is Mr. Derrick Lewis. Hello, everybody. I am Derrick Okamoto alongside my partner, Ian Parker. We are here to talk everything about this UFC Fight Night from a gambling perspective. We had a week off last week, but we are back ready to go. And before we get going, let's take a look back at 2 weeks ago. Ian, how did we do on our last UFC Best Bet show?
You know what? From a best bet standpoint, not the best, my man. We went 2-4. Very bizarre. The main event, I was so confident over 3.5 until Islam Makhachev sent Volkanovski to the shadow realm. Hamzat, I thought he would get Usman done inside the distance. He did not. The other one we lost was Shara Magomedov, Shara Bullet. He looked great. That round one against Bruno Silva went all three. However, we did hit our parlay, the main card parlay. But one bright spot, we hit our prop of the night at plus 200 and Muhammad Mokaev by sub. And you know what? That's the third time we've taken him with that prop. He's hit every time. And every time he's done it in round 3. So pay attention to that prop moving forward if we go at it again. Because if you would have taken it in round 3, I believe it was plus 1,200.
Gosh, that UFC 294 card feels like it was a lifetime ago. I was actually in Abu Dhabi for that card, and then I went over to Saudi, and Francis Ngannou almost beat the best heavyweight boxer in the world in the time that we have spent between shows. So a lot has happened in the world of combat sports, but it is nice to be back here on UFC Best Bets. And we will be looking at this UFC Fight Night main card, which will be on ESPN+. You can find it at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. You see there, Jailton Almeida taking on Derrick Lewis. And by the way, all of these odds, guys, presented by ESPN Bet. ESPN getting into the gambling space with ESPN Bet. You can find that launch later this month. Very, very exciting. Of course, very exciting in particular for this show, myself, Ian. Make sure that you get on ESPN Bet and take advantage of the new services that are there. Okay, so let's take a look at this main event. It's Jailton Almeida taking on Derrick Lewis. It is a short notice fight, so you got to believe that does impact the line here. I am curious how much you do believe it does impact the line, Ian, because Almeida, we're pretty used to seeing him at these odds, man. In fact, we're used to seeing him at odds that are even bigger than this. This guy has really made it look easy thus far in the octagon. He has taken on a very, very experienced opponent in Derrick Lewis. What do you think this odds would be like? How do you think it's influenced by the fact that Lewis is taking this fight on short notice? And is there any value to be had here?
Well, it's interesting because not only is it short notice, this is like the best type of matchup you're looking for someone Almeida who is extremely strong on the ground. And when I mean strong, he's an absolute beast. He takes the fight to the floor. Nobody's getting up from bottom in the heavyweight division. I'll put that out there right now. For him, though, at this number, you can't take it money line. Parlay maybe get you something decent. But if you're going to go there, look, let's be honest here. This is, for me, submission, finish, or bust for Almeida. Outside of a flying knee or a right, from Derrick Lewis, which he is capable of doing. We saw him doing his last fight. This has got to be the type of showcase fight for Almeida that he's hoping for. Curtis Blaydes, that was a very bizarre matchup. And I'll be honest, I was leaning towards Curtis Blaydes because I figured Blaydes had the better stand-up, the wrestling background to defend takedowns. Because Almeida's also a smaller heavyweight. This is someone who started off at light heavyweight, took a heavyweight fight on short notice, and has just stayed there. But for Derrick Lewis, Brett, I'm shocked he took this fight coming off that win against someone else that could have turned into a grappling match. And that was against Marcos Rogério de Lima. Because if he doesn't land that knee, I think Rogério de Lima takes him down and makes him pay for it. If he doesn't come up with something special here, I really fear of how bad this is going to go for him. So for me, this is going to be Jailton Almeida by submission. I can't believe we're going to get minus 135. And if you want to take it a step further, I believe round 1, you're even going to get even or plus money by sub. We're going to go that way.
Yeah. I'm really not surprised that he took this fight. I mean, Derrick Lewis just signed a new 8-fight deal. I believe that I have to believe that the man is getting paid. So to just get a phone call and be like, hey, you want to take a quick flight to Brazil and take home a giant paycheck. So keep that in mind as well. Not to say that Derrick Lewis, you won't get his best effort, but he is not having a camp here, and I think that this is playing with house money just a little bit. I mean, go down there and take a check in a fight that no one really expects him to do well in. Let's just be honest. I mean, the odds are minus 525. Let's move to the co-main event. It is Gabriel Bonfim taking on Nicholas Dalby. This is another line that is pretty significant, Ian. Minus 725 for Gabriel Bonfim. So both the main and the co-main, we have very, very wide odds. How are you going about trying to bet this one?
Look, Bonfim is someone that we should keep an eye on. He does have the potential to be a star in the division, but this is one of those times where, are we getting too excited too soon? He did get a submission on Trevin Giles, who's a black belt. He beat, his first opponent was more of a striker, and this is someone, even on the Contender Series, where it came down to him getting that submission at the end of the fight. He's got a killer guillotine choke. We know, and there it is, and we know on the ground, he is a beast. My question is, though, once it gets past the second half of round 2 and round 3, can he contain that? Is the energy there, the gas tank there? Is the experience going to be there? Because he's fighting someone like Nicholas Dalby, who not only has he not been finished in the UFC, he's never been finished once. Knockout, submission, and he does have a good gas tank, and he is well-rounded, and he is very durable. So this number does scare me. So if you're going to play this for me, this has to be Bonfim by submission, because if he doesn't get that, I don't really know how else he wins, unless he does have that type of cardio and that tank like a wrestler where he can grapple for 3 rounds, get top position. But I don't know if that's the case. So for me, this is going to be Bonfim by submission. I can't believe we're even getting this at plus 110. That number is, I think, very generous from what we've seen. So we're going to go that way. But look, and I'm saying this right now on the show, if he starts gassing, look for a live line on Dalby after round 1.
Interesting. So, yeah, we're looking at obviously 2 big favorites and 2 of the ways that we expect them to win. But here, showcase fights, sometimes they're called showcase fights for a reason. So you expect both guys to shine there in the main and the co-main. Let's move on to the rest of this main card. Again, you can find it on 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on ESPN+. We move to a heavyweight fight between Rodrigo Nascimento and Don'Tale Mayes. Nascimento minus 200. Who you got here?
Well, these two have actually fought before. Nascimento won by choke. And honestly, since the two have fought, I have not seen much of an evolution in Don'Tale Mayes. Yes, he knocked out Arlovsky, but Arlovsky is like 80 years old in MMA years, and Nascimento is way more well-rounded. Plus, Mayes has done us dirty on this show too many times. Give me Rodrigo Nascimento to win this fight. I would not be shocked if he won this by submission either.
Okay, from there we go to Caio Borralho taking on Abus Magomedov. What do you think of this middleweight fight?
I think the secret's out on Magomedov. If he doesn't win in round 1, he does not win. We saw it against Sean Strickland, and Borralho is a very, very good fighter, so well-rounded. Black belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in judo. Let's go second round. Listen, another one by submission at plus 165. I think it happens in round 2 or round 3 after Abus just completely empties the tank in round 1. Give me Borralho, and I think this kid is something special.
All right, staying in the middleweight division, I think a very, very difficult one to pick. Rodolfo Vieira taking on Arman Petrosyan. Who do we got here?
Brett, I went back and forth on this one because when you look at Rodolfo Vieira, you just think, wow, this guy is world-class jiu-jitsu. He's so strong and powerful, but we've seen him get submitted. We've seen him gas out, and he's got sloppy striking. Arman Petrosyan, very durable, good takedown defense. And as such, he's going to be the better striker here. I lean him, but I'm going over 1.5 rounds. As Vieira's subs usually come later in the fight, over 1.5 for me, and this one seems like the play.
Okay, and then rounding out this main card is a lightweight fight. You got Ismael Bonfim. He is also a huge favorite here, minus 550. You like the underdog here. How come?
Reason being is he's 3-1 his last 4 fights. He's fought higher level competition than Bonfim. We're looking at Bonfim's win over Terrence McKinney, and we're valuing him. Yet in his last fight, he got dominated. But you know what? For me, that line's too high. I think that Pinchel can win a sloppy decision as long as he doesn't get subbed. Let's go with from hell, Vince Pinchel.
All right, plus 385 there with Pinchel. So here you have it, Gabriel Bonfim and Ismael Bonfim. 2 brothers showing up on the same card. This has happened before, and they have done very, very well. Obviously, on the Contender Series, they performed very, very well, got the contract, and then UFC 283, Gabriel Bonfim with a guillotine choke, Ismael with a flying knee, both highlight finishes from him in Rio de Janeiro. So maybe history will repeat itself there in Sao Paulo, but perhaps not, as Ian takes the underdog in the Ismael fight. And that wraps us up for the main card. Let's take a look at the prelims. And as always, Ian will rapid fire you through the prelims on ESPN+. Take it away, Ian.
So look, Elvis Brenner is taking on a new opponent. We haven't seen the odds yet, but I'm gonna tell you this, Brent. If you can get minus 200 or lower based on Brenner's win over Gurham, go Brenner, and I would put that as a best bet. But I can't officially do it because we don't have odds yet. Renat versus Dos Santos. Look, Dos Santos is so tough, but Renat, I think, is one of those guys that's going to make a big difference in this division. Take him. That number's high. I would parlay him or possibly take him at a decision win. Hugo versus Marcos. Hugo on the Contender Series, so impressive. Constant pressure, and Marcos is a very talented striker. Give me under 2.5 rounds. Someone's going to sleep there. Let's go Petrino over Bukauskas. Angela Hill over Denise Gomes. Listen, this fight, to me, is going to be Angela Hill surviving round 1 and then giving her the veteran treatment in round 2 and 3. As an underdog, I'm going Angela Hill here. Eduarda Mora, another brilliant fighter from the Contender Series. She's fighting someone in Ruiz who is 0-2 in her last 2 fights. Both getting finished. Mora is so dangerous. Under 2.5 rounds. That line should be minus 220. Give me that at minus 166. And last but not least, we're going to go with DeCasey here. I'm a big fan of his. I think his evolution in his wrestling game, he's the better striker. We're going to go with him at minus 175.
All right, so it's a bit of a lopsided card, as you have seen through these odds, which again are from ESPN Bet. So I'm interested in the parlay here. Where are we going with the parlay this week?
Everyone's thinking I'm probably going massive favorites here. I'm going like the middle to massive favorites here. I'm going to go Mora, Petrino, and Renat. We're getting plus 109. I think all 3 of them are going to win pretty comfortably here. And at plus 108, and all 3 are on the prelims. So prior to the main card, let's hit the parlay.
Yeah, the parlay has been pretty hot in the last couple months. The long shot has not in 2023, but it's always fun to throw it out there. Let's get the first one on this one. What are we going with the long shot parlay?
Appreciate the reminder. This one, I tried to get a little bit more creative here. The numbers aren't huge, but I'm going with a submission parlay here at plus 868. Almeida, Bonfim, and Barajo. All 3, I do think if they win, it's by submission. Getting good odds here. So that's going to be our long shot. It's not our usual crazy long shot. This one I think is a little bit more realistic. Let's see if we hit for the first one this year.
No, yeah, I really like that one. That's a fun long shot parlay for this week. And then how about what we're really here for, I think, the best bets for this Saturday?
I'm really hoping to have a bounce back week this week leading into next week when you and I are together at MSG. So let's go. I'm going to start off with a 3-leg parlay as a best bet. We're going to go Almeida, Bonfim, and Barajo. I'm going with the 3 favorites. Guys from the submission parlay, this time all 3 money line, minus 126. I'm going to go with that one. Nascimento, I don't see why he loses this fight. He won the first time. He's gotten better. Mays has very poor fight IQ. Good athlete, just not all there when he fights. Minus 195, I still like it there. Vieira Petrosian over 1.5. Angela Hill at plus 115. Brett, I am taking her this week as the underdog. I understand the power of Gomes is there, but Angela Hill's never even been knocked out. Better striker, better overall fighter. Let's take her as the underdog. More Ruiz under 2.5. And last but not least, DeCasey at minus 175. I think he's experienced striking, and he may grapple here against a newcomer who's had a lot of wins, but with striking and TKOs. Give me DeCasey minus 175.
Okay, there are your best bets for UFC Fight Night. And I can't help myself but ask, Ian, because next week we have a UFC 295. We will be there in person in New York. I'm looking very much forward to that. Tom Aspinall taking on Sergey Pavlovich. I want you to talk about a little bit just about the opening line. Of course, we will be talking about that in depth when we're at Madison Square Garden next week. But also, I would like to know if Almeida would be a favorite against either one of these guys, because these are the three kind of young, up-and-coming heavyweights that we're kind of expecting to see over the next few years. What do you see in terms of these 3? How would you sort of rank them in terms of a betting perspective?
Well, I love that you brought that up because it actually hasn't been brought up about Almeida, and he is the next guy in line if he gets past Derrick Lewis. Where he stacks up against these guys, I think this is where he probably runs into the wall and says, you know what, I need to go back to 205 potentially, because both Aspinall, very good at jiu-jitsu, good takedown defense, and Sergey Pavlovich, although we don't see it very much, he is a sambo guy. Good takedown defense, good throws. So if Almeida can't get the fight to the floor, I think it's both guys. He loses badly when it comes to the striking. Now, when we go back to Aspinall Pavlovich, Brett, this may be a hot take, but I think this fight is going to be more exciting and better than Jones versus Stipe. You know, strip away the names, the legacies, all that. When it comes to the skill level and what we're looking at from finishes, I mean, Pavlovich has been on an absolute tear. Everyone thinks Tommy Aspinall is the next big thing, which he very well may be. I'm so excited for this fight. The betting lines are almost even, and we get to see it in person. No better way to do it than an MSG.
Yeah, I really am looking forward. There's nothing like a big fight weekend at Madison Square Garden, a full fight week in New York. Very much looking forward to that. Again, we will be in person to see that. But first, this ESPN Plus main card at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Next week, I will be in a suit and tie. I will not be in this DC and RC shirt that DC forces me to wear to promote his show sometimes, but it is rather comfortable, I will say that. We will see you next week, and good luck this weekend. Hope we gave you some good advice. Cash some tickets, and we'll see you in New York next week. Take care.